Inside the fifth episode of Outsourcing Live, I'll be talking about how to outsource an internet business. You'll discover where to find and how to hire a virtual assistant through a case study of a niche site we've created to generate income. Also, in the quick tip, I'll share with you a tool that allows my virtual team and myself to access login and password information securely online and with ease. Let's get straight into it.
Welcome to the Outsourcing Live podcast, where you will learn to build a virtual team to run your business. And now, your host, Tyrone Shum.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the next Outsourcing Live podcast. I'm really excited to share something really cool with you today because I'm going to be talking about how to outsource an internet-based business. Now, if you've been following Pat Flynn and myself on doing the Niche Site Challenge, we've been doing and building these niche sites, and I guess what I brought to the table for that particular challenge was that I specifically outsourced all of my work to create those niche sites. And what I want to do in this particular episode is to share with you on how to outsource a niche site. And I termed it an internet business because once you start building a niche site, it eventually becomes an internet business where it's generating income for you. And I wanted to share with you just from my experience so that way you can experience what it's like to see what it's done and how it was done quite well for me. And I had pretty much as much hands-off approach as possible because I wanted to run it as an experiment to show people as well on how I did it. And I think the first thing is really just to get started on finding out where to start on, firstly, who to hire first and to do these kind of sites. And secondly, how those people can actually do those sites for you or create those niche sites for you. And the process that I went through was quite a simple step-by-step process, and it did take a bit of time, but essentially I already had the virtual assistant in place. The only thing I had to do was to train them up on how to be able to set up their niche sites. So I thought I'm going to break it down right now for you on the process on how to be able to create a niche site and also having a virtual assistant run that for you. And essentially, they'll start from step one, which is creating niche sites, all the way down to breaking it down to sending it out and getting traffic for it. And then hopefully you can take over the process of monetization. Now, as I know, this particular topic is going to be quite a lengthy topic because I'm going to go into quite a bit of detail showing you and sharing with you specifically how I went about doing it. So what I've done is I've split this into two parts. And this is the first part of how to outsource an internet-based business. And I'm referring specifically to the niche sites that I've done. And I'm going to be sharing with you the example of a most recent one that I've gone through with a complete test drive or complete run with my virtual assistant from start to basically where it is right now. And this particular niche site is currently ranking the 8th place on Google's, on the first page of Google for that particular term. And I'm got no problem with sharing with you also too the name of that site. So if you do want to go check it out, it's called engagementgiftideashq.com. And from start to finish, she's taken over, which is my virtual assistant, taken over to do it. All right, before I jump into the step-by-step process of how to find a niche site and also how to do market research for it, I think the most important thing is to address the issue of where to find a good virtual assistant. So let's look at that part first. The first thing is where to find a good virtual assistant. And my virtual assistant, when I first started, I had her in my business already existing because she's been doing virtual administration tasks. But I can just share with you some of the sites that I looked at to be able to find her. And what I did was I went to a site called bestjobs.ph, which is just basically a job board site that has a whole bunch of resumes that are available for you to have a look at that all the candidates are looking for jobs in the Philippines. And this is a service that's specifically targeted towards Filipinos. So if you're a local employee inside the Philippines and you're looking for an employee to be able to help you do any type of task, most people would usually turn to bestjobs.ph to be able to find. And most likely they'd post an ad on there to be able to help find a suitable employee, and then those employees would apply for those jobs. It costs roughly about $30 per month to use, and it's a small fee to pay in order to be able to get access to these resumes because you can find some really, really good candidates from them. And personally myself, I have had great success. And you might be wondering, okay, well, how many of those people did you have to go through to find them? And also too, how much does it cost to really hire a virtual assistant from a site like that? Well, if you were to go through bestjobs.ph, I managed to find my virtual assistant to work for me for full time for $300 US per month, which is roughly equivalent to about 12,000 pesos. Obviously now she's on a much higher rate right now because she's been doing so much more for me, and I've increased her pay since then. But when she first started, she was on roughly about 12,000 pesos per month for me, and I was very happy with her. So check that site out to be able to have a look and find people on bestjobs.ph. Now, you can think a little bit left of center to be able to find good virtual assistants as well, and try out a site that's called Fiverr, which is spelled Fiverr.com. And the reason why I'm recommending this site is not because it's just people are going to be charging just $5 to complete one task. You're actually looking for a virtual assistant who's going to be able to work for you full-time or part-time to even start off when you're doing your niche sites. So the reason why I'm recommending Fiverr is because there are good quality candidates on there who are asking for work. And if they've done good work for people already and proven that they can do things for $5, I'm pretty sure if you had contact them directly and said, hey, look, would you be interested in taking on a full-time job and working for me exclusively? And I'll be happy to pay you a good rate, equivalent to rather than just looking for $5 jobs. And more than likely, there'll be a lot of people interested in that. So definitely check that one out. That's a good place to also find some virtual assistants to help you. Now, if you don't have the time and you are struggling with those sites and you've been, tossing your hands up in the air and saying, look, I can't find a good virtual assistant, then I'd recommend going through a virtual staff finding service, which can help you do that. And you can check it out at getvirtualstafffinder.com. And just to let you know that is an affiliate link there. So if you do decide to go through that service to find a virtual assistant, then I just want to say thank you for upfront. But that's a really good site that I personally used as well to find my web developers and other virtual assistants that I've had to use in the past. And you do pay an upfront fee to be able to use that service, and through that service you can find some really good virtual assistants. Now, the great thing about this service is that they do all the interviews for you, they do all the finding and filtering for you, and they come back to you with 3 top candidates that you can choose from. So that will save you a lot of time, and also too, these guys are located in the Philippines. So if you do decide to go through this service, it's already a direct service that's there available for you to use. All right, so that's where you can go and hopefully find a good virtual assistant. And I did sort of just talk a little bit briefly about whether or not to hire full-time or part-time just then. And the reasons why I'm suggesting to you to consider either hiring the person full-time or part-time is because they're dedicated to your business that way. And secondly, as well, they won't be distracted with having so many other jobs on them. If you decide to hire a contractor to be able to do any of your niche sites and build them and stuff like that, there's a more than likely chance that they'll go through and get work from others and also work on your site. And it's not very good for you because the fact is they're going to be spending a lot of time trying juggling up so much work. So if you can, ideally hire them up front full time, and therefore you'll be able to, one, save on the rate of paying per hour. And secondly, you'll have a lot more control, and you'll have someone who's going to be there reliably, keeping on tap and following up for you on a day-to-day basis. In my example, my virtual assistant works for me full time. So what happens is that I give her some work, a project, for example, and she'll make sure she follows it all the way through. She knows there's a deadline. She knows that these are the requirements, and these are the boundaries that she must stick in between by. And when you've got somewhere like that, you know that if anything needs to be completed the next day, she'll follow it up for us. Whereas if you had a contractor, you might not be able to get that kind of particular focus on your business. So it's crucial to consider that for your niche sites. All right, I think the other thing that I do get asked a lot, and also to how to go about choosing whether or not this virtual assistant is great, because I've just shared with you where to find them. I'm going to give you some tippers and pointers on how to be able to find this good VA and basically interview the right person for that type of job. And after this, I'll share with you what to look for when you're hiring a virtual assistant. So just a few tippers when hiring a virtual assistant. The first thing is that when you have got this virtual assistant, whether or not you find them on bestjobs.ph or getvirtualstafffinder.com, you must interview them on Skype. I would highly recommend that, and I wouldn't even just basically try and send things via email. I'd try and get them onto Skype, ask them if they've got a video camera and also a microphone, and talk to them as though you are physically sitting in front of them, talking to them and asking them questions about what they do, how they've been working in the past, how long have they actually been working on particular jobs in the workforce, for example, and also find out a little bit more about what their family, what their lifestyle's like, and so forth. Because when you do find out a lot of these things, hopefully, if you hire them, they become part of family, and you want to look after them. And if you look after them really, really well, I can guarantee you they'll stay on for life with you, because they are family-oriented type of people from the Philippines, and they will really, really be honest and serve you very, very well. So look at that from that perspective, and just look for a person that you are going to be hiring for medium to long term at least. The other thing to also take into consideration is to ensure that you do set the expectations at the beginning. Expectations are very important, and I think a lot of people overlook that because they don't know what to say or what to do. I'll give you some tippers on that. Basically, what you want to do is ensure that you set the expectation that this will be the first month of trialing, for example. And in that first month, you'll give them some work, and from that first month, once they've trialed it out and you've seen what they've done, then you can actually give them feedback and to see if you're willing to keep them on. And if in that first month they do perform, then obviously you can offer them to work for you for a longer period of time. And also too, just set the expectations that they must work certain hours of the day, depending on which country you're in, or you have certain boundaries that they must abide by. So, for example, my virtual assistant is aware if the projects are not completed on time, and then basically one of the boundaries or one of the consequences is that I'll delay their salary. And the number one thing that they really, really do not like is to have their salaries delayed. And because of a consequence like that, they know that if they delay the work and not deliver on time, they're not going to get paid. So that's very, very important to understand that you set these boundaries in place. Don't forget too, one thing that I found is that you can negotiate on the salary. And I highly recommend that you try to obviously be fair, pay them what they're worth, but at the same time, ensure that you do negotiate a fair price with them, because everybody's negotiable. And if they are looking to work full-time for you, you can obviously negotiate a better rate than what it is they're on an hourly rate, okay? And pay them in pesos, because the fact is you don't want to be mucking around with US dollars or Australian dollars whenever you're transferring over them, because with exchange rates, it goes up and down, and they don't want to be relying on exchange rate up and down changing. So agree on a set amount for pesos, and then you obviously control how much money is being paid into pesos via your own currency. And that way they're safe, and they know that they're going to always get the consistent exact amount that they're supposed to be paid in pesos. And for example, my virtual assistant right now, I currently pay her 14,000 pesos a month. And that's always been set. And obviously every month there's bonuses and anything that she obviously does as well. All right, one last thing I just want to offer as well too as a tip is to ensure that they do send to you a daily accountability of what's been done. That's very, very important. And you need to set that up front, because if they don't abide by that rule, and then that's already a sign that they're not committed to following rules, and also a sign that they're not going to do their work on time. So ensure that there is a daily accountability included, which includes questions about what's happened today, like what tasks have they completed, any issues that they're facing, and also any feedback they can provide on improving their role. So just ensure that they do send something back for that, because it helps them be kept accountable on a day-to-day basis and reporting back to you regularly on what's been going on. All right, what I want to do now is just to share with you some of the qualities and the skills that I look for in a virtual assistant when I'm looking at hiring a virtual assistant for this type of business or for this type of role. And as they're going to be working on niche sites, which is basically going to be creating lots of content, putting together sites, doing a lot of backlinking, which is generating traffic to the site, and also basically getting a lot of things optimized for you, done all in the background that you can't see. These are some of the skills that you need to look for. Firstly, they've got to have a reasonable good English. So when you do interview them over Skype, you'll find whether or not they do speak good English and also can communicate well. Because if you can't communicate with them and they understand what you're doing, you're not going to be able to get the message across, and they're not going to be able to do the work correctly. So reasonably good English where they can communicate and talk at a good level with you. strong writing skills and proven articles that they've written in the past. So ideally, you want to look for a virtual assistant who has had experience writing articles, who has experience writing posts or writing documents for pretty much anything that they've done. It doesn't have to be necessarily the particular niche that you're going to, because it's going to be impossible to find the person that's going to go into that niche. But as long as their writing skill has good grammar, has easy to read articles that they've written in the past, then they're definitely somebody who you want to hire. And I guess at the end of the day, what you want to also do is just to ensure that you know that you're going to be able to get the right skills in place to be able to help you with all that. The other thing as well is to consider their experience with administrative work as well. That's something very important. You need to ensure that they're good at like MS Office, handling emails, just basically following up, and that they can take self-initiative. With that kind of skill in place, and you'll be able to see that through the resume, and just simply talking to them, you'll gain that gut feeling through that they've got all their skills. Obviously, it's really when you really do put them to the test, which is to give them that trial month of the first period. And when they do trial that month, you'll really find out whether or not that's suitable. And then lastly, what I look for in a VA is a desire to learn. If they're really eager to start and they're really, really friendly and they're hoping to be able to look after you and do whatever you want them to do, then they'll show that in the interview. And when you get them started on the first month, you want to also find out from them as well what their desires as well. And usually when I do talk about family with them, ask them about what they do in their spare time and all those kind of things, you kind of find out whether or not they've got a desire to want to have dreams and goals, and also to a desire to learn to be better for themselves as well. I hope those things really do help you, because those are the basic things that I look at when I first start. And I don't want to make it complicated for you, because it is actually a process. And I'm not going to say it's easy, and I'm not going to say that's a simple way to be able to find a good virtual assistant. But at the end of the day, these are some basic principles that I follow that's worked for me in the past to be able to find a good virtual assistant. And if you just put these simple tips and practices into place, I'm pretty sure you'll have a good start to be able to find a good virtual assistant to help you with your niche site. All right, so that covers finding a good virtual assistant to help you with your niche site. Now, the next thing I want to start with you is to share with you what I've been doing with my virtual assistant and how I've outsourced it to my virtual assistant step by step, because there are so many different processes that were involved in creating this niche site and then to get it to rank on the first page of Google where it is sitting right now. So let's start firstly with some basics. Some basic stuff is to get them to train up and really understand how research works and how niche selection and market niches work as well. Once they understand that whole process, then it's very, very easy for them to be able to go out there and find different topics as well. So what I did firstly with my virtual assistant, I'll call her Jo for now because that's her short name, her nickname. I got Jo to go out there and find particular topics on things that she was interested in. And essentially, first thing she did was to write down her passions and her problems. And I asked her to write down at least 5 of each of those. And obviously with passions and problems, she would be the one writing those down, because at the end of the day, she's going to be writing about those. And if she's passionate about a topic or has problems about those topics, it'll be more than likely that she'll write about it. So that's the reason why I got her to do that, to write that down, because I wanted her to do some market research on her passions and topics. In this particular instance, I also gave some input and some suggestions as well. And obviously with engagement gift ideas, if you didn't know, I'm getting married. So I recently, I didn't get recently, but I got engaged a year ago, and I thought it'll be interesting to find out what was in the engagement market to see what they were. And that's how we came across this topic as well. So I got her to do a bit of research for that, and we also determined that. But essentially, there were many topics that we came across, and we have actually gone through with a lot of them that she's actually written down for me. And that's why I haven't shared it with you, because I want to use only one example right now to show exactly what we're doing. All right, so let's have a look at the next thing that we did was I provided her with some training videos, and I've done numerous training videos on showing her how to be able to do and select a niche site or niche market. And we went through a simple process of firstly meeting 4 criteria. And if you wanted to find out the exact training material that I gave her, I actually have a specific webinar that I did for everyone that was available free publicly that you can also download and watch as well. And you can get access to that at outsourcinglive.com/keyword-webinar. And also too, this will be in the show notes directly on this podcast as well. So you can hop onto the website at this podcast and see the show notes as well. But basically, we've used a software called Market Samurai, and Market Samurai does a lot of the legwork for us. It saves us so much time having to go through and filter individually exactly what markets to find and so forth. Because if we would go through the manual process, I think it'll probably take us maybe 100 times longer to do it. So that's why we've used a software like Market Samurai to be able to find these things. And as I mentioned, there were 5 criteria that we had to abide by. And these are the things that she understands and we select by. So let's have a look at them. The 4 criteria are relevance, or does it make sense? And that's the first thing. You want to look at the niche market that she's chosen or the topic that she's chosen, and is it relevant to the current market? And if she was to write about it, does it actually make sense? And I'll give you an example. I went through and had a look at some interesting topics with her in the past, and one of them that we struggled with, which was the first one, was baby predictions. And for us, it sort of just didn't make much sense. Like for me, it didn't make any sense at all. What the heck is baby predictions? And after a little bit of research and delving into it a little bit further, we found that it just was not relevant to the market, and furthermore, just didn't have as much traffic as we expected. So you need to look at it and see, does it make sense, and can I write about it as well? Which leads also onto the second point when I mentioned there was not enough traffic. Is the second criteria is there enough traffic going through? And that's another criteria that we looked at, is to see whether or not the traffic to this particular niche is relatively high. And when I say high, is not much. It's really difficult to sort of say at least a high amount. It could be a specific amount, but I'm just saying is there a minimum of at least 80 visitors per day, which is the traffic that we look at for any type of niche. And you can do that through Market Samurai. And as I said, it's specifically laid out inside the keyword webinar. The other thing is competition. That's the third thing, is to look at what is the competitive market doing, how many competitors are there, and how strong is the competition. And that's what we researched and made sure as well before we jumped into the market. And then finally, the 4th criteria that we looked at was the commercial value. Commercial value is very, very important because it determines whether or not this site or this particular niche can make money. And there's no point jumping into a market where there's a lot of freebies, no one's willing to spend any money, and there's a lot of traffic. That's probably the worst market to go into. But if you can get into a market where it's proven that there's a lot of advertisers, there's money that's there, and there's money to be made, then obviously that keyword or that market is going to be commercially viable. And obviously from Market Samurai, when you look through and use that specific tool to be able to do it, it tells you exactly all those criteria. And if it meets those 4 criteria and it meets certain figures that I share within that keyword webinar, then you're pretty much on a home run to be able to tick it and say, okay, that's a good niche to jump into. And that's how we discovered on finding engagementgiftideashq.com. And I basically gave all that to her. So what Jo did for me was that she went out, did the market research, came back to me and showed me, it was a list of, I think, 15 topics that she had written or wrote down. And then in a spreadsheet, she laid out exactly what the figures were, showed me which ones were potential. And then from there, I said, all right, look, let's have a look at this one. Let's go into that market. And that was pretty much outsourced. She did all the market research and the niche selection. And usually I know for a fact it takes hours and hours to be able to do this myself. I've done it myself and I know how long it takes. It's a very long process, but outsourcing it to her, she obviously did it much faster for me and also to save me time, which meant that I could spend my time doing other things. And that's what I did. I outsourced the market research and a niche selection to her. So when she came back and we agreed on the topic, then the next step that I got her to do was to choose a domain name and also purchase the hosting. This is what we did was with Engagement Gift Ideas. That was the keywords. And because they were the keywords, we had to go out there and find what domains were available. And ideally, what you want to find is any domains with .com or .net on the end of them. And if they have a .com or .net, then with the exact domain name match, which was engagement gift ideas, would be perfect. But unfortunately, that term was taken for both the .com and .net. And this is what we found, was that we could add on either 1 or 2 letters at the end, or add it at the beginning. And there were a few different options that were available. There was obviously Engagement Gift Ideas HQ, or My Engagement Gift Ideas, or stuff like that. We ended up going for HQ in the end. Also, too, more recently, I've been discovering as well, a lot of people have been buying up HQ names because of we've been sharing that around a lot to people. So therefore, a lot of people in the market have caught on to that and been buying out HQs. So unfortunately, when HQ's been taken, or My's been taken, or etc., you have to think of other potential letters to add onto the end. So I've been recently adding U, basically just the letter U to the end, and calling it university. So that might be something that you want to consider and check out as well. Now, once these domains have been chosen, the next stage is to be able to purchase them. Before actually, to be able to share with you on where to find out how these domains are found and which one's available, I used a website called oneand1.com. So it's the number 1 and, which is AND, and the number 1.com again. And you can actually type in the potential domain name that you're looking for, and it'll tell you whether or not it's available. So try that out and test it there. All right, coming back, as I was saying, to purchase domain and also hosting, I got her to do that for me. This is actually what I usually do, is I would step in at this point in time. After Joe's found the domain, she'd tell me, okay, I'd like to purchase this domain and hosting. And I usually go in with my credit card and pay for it, and then obviously give her the details from there. So the place that I usually go to get hosting from is a site called gotobluehost.com. And that's an affiliate link as well too. So if you do decide to purchase it at this domain, or purchase through this hosting and domain provider, then I thank you very much up front. So what we do is that we go to gotobluehost.com, and we purchase the domain name and the hosting, and it's really, really cheap. You know, it's only something like $7 per month, and you can get yourself a domain name and also hosting. And usually domains cost at least $10 a year per year to be able to hold. So Bluehost does that very, very well. Another option as well, if you're wanting to completely, and you do trust your virtual assistant, which I actually should do this now very soon because she's been working with me for a very long time, you can actually ask them to purchase the domain name and then either reimburse it back to them later. So they pay their own funds and reimburse it back to them later, or you give them your credit card details and they'll purchase it for you. So it's really up to you there, and you can, depending on what level you're at to outsource, then those are some of the options available to you as well. All right. Now, I thought let's summarize what we've just been doing. What I've done is I've got Joe to go through, do the market research for me, find a niche, and then come back to me and let me know exactly what she's done. And then we choose the topics. Then I've got her to go through and find out which domains are available, and then also to purchase the hosting as well. Now, once that's all done, the next step is to get her to set up all the site with WordPress. And with Engagement Gift Ideas, we had a template, which it's a free template that was available called Simple Folio. And I got her to basically firstly set up WordPress using the one-click install feature. And once she did that, then she installed the theme. If you want to actually get the details on how to set up the one-click install feature, there is a link available in the video, in a video that I created in the show notes as well. So you can click on that when you go back to outsourcinglive.com, and it'd be /podcast-005. This is the 5th episode, and you'll be able to see the show notes there, and it'll show you exactly how to be able to use that WordPress one-click. Now, once she's done that, it's a very simple installation. She goes into WordPress, which is the site that we set up. She'll install the plugins, then set up the site with important information such as the about page, contact pages, and also home page. And after that as well, she'll also install the theme for me as well. And then, yeah, we're pretty much up and running and in business. And it's not that hard. These are all training videos that I've created for her, which I just gave to her, and she just follows them step by step and does them one by one at a time. And that way I've outsourced the whole process of her getting to set up the whole site for me using WordPress. And that's what we do for the niche site. So if you jump over to Engagement Gift Ideas HQ, you'll see a fully set up WordPress site with articles and content that's already been put in there. And obviously with the about page, contact pages, and also home pages, that was all set up as well initially. Obviously right now, if you see that site, there is content that's in there. And what I want to do is in the next session, in the next episode, I want to share with you on how to outsource all that content and also get, say for example, your virtual assistant to do all the traffic generation and to also set up ready in preparation for monetizing that site, monetizing the niche site for you as well. So I'll definitely share all that with you and exactly step by step on how she's gone about doing that for me. And as you can see, I've just pretty much outsourced everything for her to do all the work. Essentially, I've put in towards the strategy and I've shown her exactly what that strategy is all about. And once you do it a few times, like show them through training videos a few times, they can pretty much take on, say, a niche market, or a domain name or whatever you choose, and go ahead and set it up in those exact same processes as I've mentioned and have your site outsourced for you and pretty much done, ready for you to go. And that's essentially what I want to share with you today, is to how to outsource a niche site or how to outsource an internet-based business. It's time for the Outsourcing Live quick tip. In today's quick tip, I want to share with you a really awesome tool that I've been using with my virtual team for probably now a little bit over 12 months now. And this tool has been a real lifesaver and also time saver as well too for us. It's a tool called LastPass, and this is something that's available for free that you can install across any computer. And what this tool allows you to do is it allows you to be able to store all your user login names and your passwords all securely online. And you don't have to even worry about where and how to access it, because it just comes with this tool that can be compatible across every single browser. See, if you've got a Mac, it will fit for all those browsers that you can use. If you've got a PC, you can also install it as well too. And all it is just a little application that installs automatically onto your system once you've installed it, and basically allows you to be able to automatically fill in your usernames and your passwords for any site that you visit. So like us, we have tons and tons of websites, and because of that, we can't remember everything. And LastPass basically saves for us the opportunity or the easy access for us to fill in those passwords without having to even remember them. And it's secure because you have to type one main password that is a centralized password to access all your passwords. And you can separate this each and every individual one for each and every one of your virtual team members as well. Now, if you want to find out more about how to be able to use this LastPass and how I set it up with my virtual team, you can visit outsourcinglive.com/LastPass, which is spelled LASTPASS-tutorial. And you can watch that step-by-step tutorial, and I'll show you exactly what I do with LastPass with my virtual team. So check it out, and it's a great tool, and I highly recommend it for you, and it's a must if you've got multiple people working with you. Now, if you like more resources like this one, you can find them inside Mass Outsource Mastermind, along with video tutorials and step-by-step instructions showing exactly how I use them. To get a 30-day, no-risk trial membership to Mass Outsource Mastermind, simply visit freevideoset.com. Until next time, I wish you success in your quest for outsourcing.